So there's a variety of different constraints you can use for gluing your different rigid bodies together, and you can access them through the constraint menu here. You've got hinge, ball and socket, spring, slider, and fixed. And of course, each one is most useful in specific scenarios depending on exactly what effect you're trying to get. In this case, we want the catapult arm to rotate about the pivot point, so a hinge joint will work well there. And as well, we want the weight to pull down on this arm, so another hinge joint actually is ideal in that situation. So since we want to apply two different hinge joints, I'll use the multi-constraint tool and use the hinge, and this allows me to just middle mouse click and sequentially pick my different objects to add the hinge constraints. So you can see there I've got two hinge objects now. They're found in the constraint group in the environment. And once we actually have the hinges applied, the next thing to do is to actually position them by rotating and translating them to their initial state, or the proper position they need to be in to actually create the correct simulation. So right now they're oriented the wrong way, so I'm going to rotate this guy 90 degrees, and we just want to position it, and I'll just transform it something like that, so it's actually perpendicular to the cylinder. And then we'll do the same thing with this guy here. We want to rotate it 90 degrees and then translate it up, just roughly get it in a position, something like that. So once we're happy with the actual position of all the constraints, what we can do is set the initial state, and this will basically tell XSI to begin the simulation with the constraints in this position. So with the mode selected, I can go rigid body, set initial state, and there we go. Let's just play that back to take a look at what we've got. So you can see we're getting pretty much the behavior we're looking for. I'm just going to bring up the mass on this guy a little bit so it has a little more punch to it. We'll make it 1,000 kilograms there. We'll play that back again. Okay, it's not bad. I'm noticing that I've got this probably not positioned. It should be a little more at the tip. So what we can do is actually take our rigid body object. Let's move that over. And then what I want to do is set the initial state for this guy. And as well, I'm going to have to adjust the spring to accommodate for that. So let's just put this right over at the tip. And we'll set the initial state again for that. There we go. We'll play that back. Okay, that's a lot better. The next thing we want to do is by default we've got a bit of spring and dampening on the actual hinge joints. So what I want to do is actually just go to the hinge, and let's take off the default spring and dampening for both of them. So we get something that's a little more frictionless. Okay, that seems pretty good.